All right, welcome everyone. So today we're going to get into something really interesting. We're going to talk about calculus. And I know, you probably think of it as this, purely theoretical math subject, but what I want to show you today is how it's actually one of the most powerful tools a business leader can have. Seriously, we're going to move past just the formulas and really get into the strategic thinking behind it. The kind of thinking that lets you analyze, strategize, and lead with real confidence in a world that is just full of uncertainty. But before we open up the textbooks, let's just frame the problem we're here to solve. I want you to think about this for a second. What is the one thing that every single business leader, whether they're running a two-person startup out of a garage or they're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, what do they all have to deal with every single day? What's that invisible force that can make or break a company? That's it right there, uncertainty. It is the fog that clouds every single business decision. It's that unpredictable variable that can turn what looks like a surefire success into a total cautionary tale. So our goal as managers, as future leaders, isn't to somehow eliminate uncertainty, because, let's be real, that's impossible. No, our job is to learn how to manage it, how to model it, and maybe even how to turn it to our advantage. So how in the world do we do that? Well, that's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by really defining our challenge, the certainty of uncertainty. Then we're going to arm ourselves with the tools from the calculus of change, specifically derivatives and integrals. And then we'll put these tools to the test in a real-world investment workshop. By the time we're done here, you're going to have a brand new, powerful analytical toolkit to bring into the business world. Okay, first things first. In the world of business, there is really only one thing you can be absolutely certain of, and that is uncertainty. It's not a bug in the system, it is a fundamental feature of the system. And the best managers, they don't claim to predict the future, they don't have a crystal ball. What they do is prepare for it. They build these robust mathematical frameworks that allow them to make smart, defensible decisions, even when they don't have all the answers. This quote from our source material really is the bedrock for our entire discussion today. It's not just about passively acknowledging that risk exists, it's about actively managing it. Think about it this way. When a company like Apple decides to launch a new iPhone, they don't know for sure how it will sell. There's a whole spectrum of possible outcomes, right? It could be a massive hit that sends the stock soaring, or it could be a flop that requires a billion-dollar recall. The job of a business leader is to use the tools of mathematics to understand that entire range of possibilities, to actually quantify that risk, and then to make the decision that offers the highest probability of success. So what is our secret weapon in this fight against uncertainty? Well, it's a branch of mathematics you're already familiar with, but you've probably never thought about it quite this way before. I am, of course, talking about calculus. And I can almost hear what you're thinking. Calculus? Really? What on earth does that have to do with making a business decision? Well, I'm here to tell you that calculus is the absolute key to unlocking a whole new level of strategic thinking. By the end of this session, you're going to see it not as some dry academic subject, but as this incredibly powerful tool for making smarter business decisions. Today, we're going to focus on two fundamental instruments from calculus, derivatives and integrals. And I want you to think of them as two different lenses you can use to look at your business. A derivative, that's like a magnifying glass. It lets you zoom way, way in to see the tiny details. We're talking about the precise impact on your profit if you change your price by just $1, or the exact change in your cost from producing just one more item. An integral, on the other hand, that's your wide-angle lens. It lets you zoom out and see the whole big picture, things like your total profit over an entire fiscal quarter, or the total lifetime value of a customer. A truly effective leader needs to be able to switch between these two perspectives effortlessly. All right, let's grab that magnifying glass. It's time to take a much closer look at our first tool, the derivative. This is where we really get into the nuts and bolts of what we call marginal analysis. And that's just a fancy term for thinking about the impact of very small changes. It's all about making decisions right there, at the margin. Now, I know this academic definition can look a little intimidating. The instantaneous rate of change, the slope of the tangent line. Let's just push the jargon aside for a second and think about what this actually means in a business context. A derivative is simply a tool for answering a very simple but incredibly important question. What happens next? What is the immediate, instantaneous impact on our profit if we increase our ad spend by $1 more? What happens to our production costs if we add one more person to the assembly line? The derivative gives you the answer at that precise instant. And this, right here, is where the magic happens. We are translating these abstract mathematical ideas directly into concrete, actionable business intelligence. That slope of the curve you learned about in class,
That's not just a line on a graph anymore. Now it's the exact extra profit you're going to make from selling one more widget. That limit of the difference quotient, that's not just a formula to memorize, it's the precise cost of manufacturing that very next item. This is the kind of detailed, granular thinking that separates good managers from truly great ones. It allows you to fine-tune your entire operation with almost surgical precision.
Let's make this even more real. Let's say your company sells high-end headphones. You need to decide on your production numbers, so you use a derivative to calculate your marginal profit, right? The extra cash you pocket from selling just one more pair. So look at this. The 100th pair you sell, it brings in a nice healthy $50 in profit. Fantastic, we love to see that. But then, look what happens. The 101st unit only adds $48. The 102nd, now we're down to $45. See that? That is the law of diminishing returns playing out in real time. It's a flashing warning light. It's telling you, hey, maybe we're starting to saturate the market, or uh-oh, our production costs might be creeping up. And that is the power of the derivative. It's not just a number, it's a signal. It gives you a clear warning to reevaluate your strategy before that marginal profit hits zero and turns negative.
Okay, so we've seen how the derivative, our magnifying glass, helps us make these incredibly precise decisions at the margin. But what about the big picture? How do we know if all of those little decisions are adding up to a winning strategy? Well, for that, we need to put down the magnifying glass and pick up our wide-angle lens. We need our second tool, the integral. An integral is really all about accumulation. It's about adding things up. It's like a running total of all those small instantaneous changes we were just looking at with the derivative. Imagine you have a function that represents your company's revenue flowing in every single day. The derivative would tell you the rate at which money is coming in at any given moment. The integral, by finding the area under that curve, adds up all those moments to give you the total revenue for the week, the month, or the entire year. It gives us the sum total, which is crucial for things like total project cost or total annual revenue. So let's go back to our headphone company. The derivative gave us that critical piece of information. The 102nd pair of headphones will only add $45 to our profit. That's vital for making short-term production decisions. But what about the bigger question? Is this headphone business actually profitable overall? Is this a venture worth pursuing? For that, we need the integral. We use it to sum up all the marginal profits from every single headphone we sold. The $50 from unit 100, the $48 from unit 101, all the way back to the very first unit. And that gives us the big picture, the bottom line. In this case, it's over $1.2 million in total profit, which tells us that yes, this business is a resounding success. Okay, enough theory. We've talked about the concepts, we've defined our tools. Now it's time to actually put them to work. We are going to roll up our sleeves and walk through a very realistic business problem. This is where you'll see just how incredibly powerful these calculus tools really are when you're in the driver's seat. So I want you to imagine this. You're at your desk, and your boss comes in with a major proposal. The company is thinking about investing $5 million in a brand new production line. And they look you right in the eye and say, I need your analysis, I need your recommendation. Is this a good investment or not? So what do? You can't just go with a gut feeling. You need to build a solid, data-driven, defensible case. Where do you even start? Well, we're going to use a structured 4-step process. Step 1, and this is the most critical part, is doing our homework. We have to talk to the finance department, the operations team, the marketing folks, and gather all the data we need to build mathematical models for our projected costs and revenues. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So this step is key. Step 2, we'll use our derivative skills to find the sweet spot, that optimal production level where our marginal revenue equals our marginal cost, because that's the point of maximum profit. Then, for step 3, we'll switch to our integral skills to calculate the total expected profit over the entire lifespan of this new equipment, say the next 5 years. And finally, step 4 is the moment of truth. We compare that total projected profit to the initial $5 million investment. This is how you turn a massive, intimidating question into a smart, data-driven, and confident decision. Now, before we move on, I want to pause and talk about a very common and very, very costly mistake that I see students and even experienced professionals make all the time. Getting this wrong can literally cost a company millions of dollars. So please listen closely, because this is one of those lessons that you absolutely need to take with you. The mistake seems simple, but its consequences are huge. It's confusing average cost with marginal cost. Now, average cost is easy to calculate, right? You just take your total cost and divide it by the number of units you've made. But that number is a bit polluted. It's got all your fixed costs, rents, salaries, all that overhead smeared across every single unit. Marginal cost, that's the derivative, is different. It's the clean, precise cost of producing just one more unit. So look at this scenario. Let's say your average cost comes out to $110 a unit, and your product sells for $100. The knee-jerk reaction is, oh no, we're losing $10 on every sale, shut down production. But hold on. What if you do the real math? You calculate the derivative and find your marginal cost is only $85. That means that next unit you produce is actually making you a $15 profit. By making that one simple error, by confusing average with marginal, you would have just killed a profitable product line. You would have literally walked away from thousands, maybe millions in profit. That's how crucial this distinction is.
So what's the big picture here? What have we really learned today? We've learned that calculus isn't just a prerequisite for engineering students. It is a fundamental tool for strategic business leadership. It's a way of thinking that helps you cut through the noise and make smarter, more informed decisions. This wasn't just a math lecture. This was a lesson in how to think like a true strategist.
So, what are the key things I want you to walk away with? First, don't fear uncertainty. Embrace it. It's just a fundamental part of the business landscape. Second, use mathematics, use calculus as your secret weapon to model and manage that uncertainty. Third, remember to think like a photographer. Use your derivative magnifying glass to zoom in on the critical details, and then use your integral wide-angle lens to zoom back out and see the whole picture. And finally, always remember that the ultimate goal here is to make smart, informed, data-driven decisions that will help your organization thrive.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about finding the right number in a calculation. It's about learning to ask the right questions. Anybody can plug numbers into a spreadsheet, but a real leader, a real strategist, knows how to ask the right questions. So instead of asking, will this project be profitable? You'll start asking, at what production level will we maximize our profit? Instead of just asking, should we launch this product? You'll ask, what is the optimal price point for this product to maximize total revenue? And how does that affect long-term brand perception? Those are the kinds of sophisticated questions that will truly set you apart.
So far today, we focused on how to manage the risks we can see and quantify. But as we all know, the biggest challenges, and often the biggest opportunities, come from the risks we can't see, the so-called unknown unknowns. Think about a sudden global pandemic, a disruptive new technology that comes out of nowhere, a major geopolitical event. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. How can you take the analytical mindset we've developed today and apply it to building businesses that are not just profitable in the short term, but are also resilient enough to prepare for a future that you can't even begin to imagine? That's the question that will define your success as a leader. Thank you.